welcome to the Golden Hour and the Manifest to Live Life Golden podcast and YouTube show. I'm Golden Duffy, your host, and today I am jumping in here. I've got some really important things to share that, have been processing for me. I'm also kind of up against it because we've got some plumbers coming out in the end of this week, and so it's like I got to get the show done today, and so I'm feeling like this really impulse of intuition to get this show accomplished today, and there's reasons for that. So funny little sidebar about my life and my family. We had 3 toilets replaced in our house recently, and we've had problems with two. We've had problems with them. So no, it was 3. We had all 3 toilets replaced because we've been having problems with them. So one of my husband's fears was that the toilet that's in our master bath would often get clogged and overflow. Now, it wasn't like our issue, it was like an issue within the pipes. So by replacing the toilets, he kind of felt like that was going to satisfy that issue. Well, sure enough, the plumber that installed the toilet did something with the gasket, which actually made the toilet start dripping inside the kitchen ceiling. So we had to rip the kitchen ceiling out again. So I'm like, well, there's your worst fears coming true, because that was his fear. And it didn't actually accomplish the problem. It's in the pipe. So now they're coming out later today to diagnose the problem, and we may have to have all of the pipes replaced. And it's so interesting when these things happen to us. I know this is like first world problems here, but when these things happen, it's really easy for us, especially if you're new to law of attraction. This was probably one of the biggest things that I learned in law of attraction that helped me to stop beating myself up when things would happen. Because if your belief is that everything that's happening around you, you are attracting it, then something like, issues in your house with water or toilets or whatever, or anything that's happening in your life, you can start to get really down on yourself because you're like, why am I attracting this stuff? Why does bad stuff always happen to me, right? Well, when you start to really grow and learn and expand as a being, and you pull in the spiritual side, so the spiritual component of this life experience where you're not just looking at the science. When I first learned about law of attraction, and you may have had the same story, I kind of lost God in all of that. I didn't really understand. I just really pulled towards the science and then away from the spiritual center of who I was. And I think I needed to do that for a little while to clean up whatever my story about God was, because my story of God was that he was this big judgmental being in the sky that was judging me and playing puppet with my life. And that just did not work for me anymore. It never really worked for me. I always had so many questions about how could that possibly be? And I didn't like the powerless position of begging God to help me fix my life. It never resonated with me. I always had questions. And I think that's what caused me to continue to seek until I started to get answers that really satisfied not only my logical brain, but also my spiritual center as well. What's happening may feel extremely random to you. It may feel like everything is beyond your control. And I think that's where a lot of depression comes into, and anxiety comes into, and fear comes into, is this notion that we can't trust, that it has to be God's will in order for it to be done. So where I started to shift and change that into a more spiritual perspective with the law of attraction as my base, with universal law as my base, was when I started to realize there is a spiritual component to all of this, and it is built on faith and trust. So once you start to have the faith and trust, when things happen, because things do happen, they're random. There's things that you need to expand and grow from that you don't necessarily understand, to show yourself that you are a powerful manifestor, to show yourself that you are expressing in ways that manipulates the energy around you. So when these things happen, it's easy to get down. It's easy to get upset. It's easy to feel like, oh my goodness, the sky is falling, whatever. Instead, like, I instantly shifted to, this is going to work in our favor. For whatever reason, this is going to work in our favor. Like the fact that the toilet was not installed properly and caused leakage in our house told me that we were going to be given a pathway to fix the actual problem, because the actual problem was never addressed. And that problem would have been not addressed if that toilet hadn't overflowed again. So, and it wasn't even overflowing, it was leaking from within the toilet. So it's just really interesting when you start to manipulate your perspective, when you start to have control over your responses, where you're not in this fight or flight reactionary system and you're, constantly flipping out about things, when you can be calm, when you can take a step back, when you can say, all right, where is the benefit in this for me? I know something good is coming, because something good always comes. That's the faith-centered spiritual part of law of attraction that a lot of people are missing. So it's not necessarily what comes to you, it's how you respond to it that actually dictates your point of attraction. So that is that is such an important component to all of this that I feel like is really being missed out there. Because many law of attraction teachers will tell you, do affirmations, do mantras, change the subconscious mind by what you're telling it. But the fact of the matter is, law of attraction is based on your emotional field. That's the energy in motion. So yes, words are powerful, but they're not powerful if there's nothing behind them. If there is no emotion driving them, then sometimes those words or those affirmations can do the opposite. If you're saying I'm abundant, but you really feel broke, and saying I am abundant actually makes you feel worse, you're in the wrong direction. You'd be better off not actually doing those affirmations and maybe taking a smoother approach, because you're putting yourself, people who are abundant don't sit there and say, I am abundant. They already know it. They already be it. They don't have to proclaim it. So realize that, because law of attraction, identity creation is so much stronger when you recognize that I am becoming that person that I say I want to be, instead of, I'm going to affirm that I'm that person. You don't have to affirm that you are that person. You just have to be that person. So today's conversation is about complaining. And I really wanted to do a show on complaining because of a very short moment in my life. And so when I was growing up, my mom used to call me Sarah Bernhardt. I don't know who Sarah Bernhardt is, but every time I had an issue or a pain, or I hurt myself pretty bad a few times. There was one time I was running home from our neighbor's house, and we had these huge boulders. I can't believe I'm going to tell this story. We have these huge boulders, and I went running down the boulder because I had to go to the bathroom so bad, and I was too embarrassed to ask them to use their bathroom. And I ended up tripping and sliding down these boulders and getting like road rash so bad, like rock rash so bad, and like crawling home to my mom. Like I couldn't even walk because I was bleeding. And I just remember her being like, you're a complainer. And I was like, I'm injured. I'm a child, So I know that, growing up and being the person that I was, I know that I had a tendency to complain, and it's really prevalent to me today. Like and if you know me as a person, this, you probably don't witness this very much, but my husband will tell you that he can catch me. And I think he's been a great broadcaster to me, to like make me realize that. Like if somebody's telling you something about yourself and you're just getting offended, you're never going to change it. But if somebody says something about you and you look at it and you go, is that true for me? Am I really doing that? And do I want to be that person? Then you have the best possible way to create some changes. So I have a tendency to complain, and it's crazy because I've studied law of attraction so much, and I am really good at positive outlooks, and I meditate and I keep myself in really good places. But there are times when I notice those neural pathways, those loops, and that's all it is. It's a neural pathway and a loop that we pick up on that is, it's just a habit. It's absolutely a habit, like a well-worn path that we go through. So the other morning I was waking up, it was Monday and yesterday, and today's Tuesday. I am recording the show a little bit early so I can get this out to you guys this week. I was waking up on a Monday morning and I wasn't excited about it. I had had a weekend where I was struggling, not struggling, but I was definitely in the lower thought forms in my mental capacity. I definitely wasn't in gratitude. I was alone a little bit more than I like to be on Saturday. And I was definitely just having these issues where I'm like, what's my purpose? And that's kind of my neural loop as I go into the purpose and the doubts and all of that. So on Sunday, my husband and I had a discussion about it, and kind of like in a solutionary thing where he's really good at solutions and he was giving me some solutions. And then Monday morning when I woke up, I was kind of still in that yucky feeling. And I noticed the minute that I became conscious, right? The minute that I opened my eyes, I started down this kind of complain road. Like I could feel myself starting to go in there. And I'm so conscious and aware of it now that I won't speak it out loud, because I know that if I start my day off complaining to my husband, he will A, tell me that I need to stop. B, it'll ruin his day. Like it'll start his day off on a bad foot. So I am really conscious of not saying anything. So then I just started to reach higher. So I'm laying in bed, I'm reaching higher. I really practice this every morning where I put my hand on my heart and I think about all the wonderful things that I'm grateful for and just thankful for another day. Thank you, God, for another day. And, my day was so much better because I started the day out like that. But how often do we get out of bed and we're setting the tone for the whole day and we're in this complainer mode, right? Like, especially if you have body aches or pains, like getting out of bed. I think a lot of us experience that. I don't think I'm alone in that. What's going on in your body, or if you've got an illness. If you wake up every day and you're complaining about your health or an illness, you are vibrating and activating that energy every single day, and your body will not have the ability to heal. We are healing mechanisms. So and our cells are constantly replenishing. So if you have a condition that keeps happening, then you are keeping that condition alive. If you were to starve that condition and not give it any attention, you would start to heal, because you're not activating that there's something wrong with me all the time. So I want to talk a bit about complaining and what complaining actually does, and then what it does internally. And then we're going to talk about what complaining does externally. So internally, complaining, they've actually done studies on the hippocampus of the brain, which is basically your memory center. And it shrinks the memory center of your brain. So if you have issues with memory, pay attention to how much you're complaining. And I really think that that's because we're not retaining the higher vibrational energy. We're not in those neural pathways. We're in lower pathways when we're in complaining. We are hyper focused on ourself when we're complaining. That is probably one of the number one issues I see in mental health and depression. This is why, like in AA, they recommend that you become a sponsor, because when you sponsor people, you're focused on them and not on yourself. When you're focused on yourself, that's definitely like a quality, an addiction, or someone who's like a narcissist is being completely focused on yourself. When you are focused on yourself, you have a limited perspective of life. You have a limited perspective of what other people are going through. So you don't have any compassion. You don't really care about other people. You're just thinking about yourself. And you don't have the capacity to see outside of that. So all of your problems become very big and become very overwhelming. So in complaining, when you're on that lower trail, it actually activates fear and anxiety. It's in those lower neural loops and habits and pathways of, fears, anxieties, doubts, overwhelmment, all of that stuff. So it's going to activate all of that stuff, which is going to cause you to complain even more. That's law of attraction at its finest. Like attracts like. And then you're going to attract all these people around you that are complaining as well. And like they say, misery loves company. So we're all going to be commiserating, which feels really good, by the way. It feels great to complain. It feels great to resonate in our pain, right? It feels great to like This is why there's groups, right? Like there's chat groups and like anti-groups and all of this, because we feel really good in what we're fighting against. And when we're fighting against something, we're actually including it in our experience, and we cannot find a way out of it. We can't find a solution to get out of it because we're way too much in the problem. We're way too activating the problem. So as you complain, you get into those lower habits, those lower loops. And then law of attraction says like attracts like. You are in a momentum where things like it are drawn to you. So more and more things that you have to complain about will be drawn to you. So as you complain, you're activating a feeling, right? You're activating. So you've got thoughts, you got these thoughts. The thoughts activate words. The words and the thoughts activate the feelings, the emotions. And before you know it, you are aggravated, frustrated, irritated, depressed, sick of it, whatever you want to call it, fed up with it. And now you've really got the energy moving. That's when this wave is like really powerful, really going out and really sending a signal to all the things you don't want to come to you. Complaining is like asking for more of what you don't want. That's what complaining is. It also, it really takes away from what we have to be happy about, what we have to be, it takes your total focus off of what you have to be grateful about, what you have to love, what's good about people, what's good about this world. It takes your complete focus off of that, so you can't even see it. You can't even see what's right there in front of you that's so good. You can't even connect with the people around you in love and compassion because you're too hyper-focused on your problems. You're living in your mind. You're not allowing anything new to happen. You're not allowing new possibilities to happen because you are too much in the limited perspective of the mind to activate anything else out of that unlimited potential. We want to be in a field of unlimited, we want to live in the field of unlimited potentiality because that's where the miracles happen. That's where the mailbox money comes. That's where we meet people and amazing things happen in our life in a snap. If we're not in those elements, it's going to get worse and worse and worse. That's how law of attraction works. The worse it gets, the worse it gets. The better it gets, the better it gets. So if you're down here, my advice would be don't try to get up here. There's too much space between that. So you can't go from depressed to joy. And honestly, there's so much, a way of describing depression, which I love, is compression. If you thought of it as compression instead of depression, it's like depression is you are not satisfied with the answers out in the world, so you go within. And if you go within in a dark place, in a negative place, you're not going to get the benefits of being in your higher state of consciousness. You're just going to stay in those lower survival fields, and you won't have access to the higher states of consciousness, which happens when you quiet your mind, when you meditate, when you quiet your mind, when you decide everything, I'm going to let everything go for a little while. I feel like this light is like really bright. I'm going to let everything go for a little while so that I can allow myself to raise, so I can allow my vibration to raise. I'm going to let it all go, because thinking about it constantly, worrying about it constantly, talking about it constantly is not helping me. It's not allowing me to find solutions. So I've got to let go. I've got to let go for a little while, and letting go for a little while will change your vibration radically. It will really allow you to access other things. So first would be quiet your mind. Second would be just incremental. So as I'm laying in bed, I don't have a lot of momentum, right? I mean, I had momentum from the day before for sure, or a couple of days. For a couple of days, I was feeling a little bit off. So if you've been feeling off lately, it's happening. It was happening. I don't know if it was planetary. I will tell you, on Monday, I woke up in a lot more relief. Like I felt like kind of a let go of the density of energy. So I do believe that there's planetary stuff going on, especially because I will often see, and we are in a collective of energy, a collective of people. So when I see a lot of people kind of going through the same thing, I'm like, yeah, there's something funky in the air right now, right? Full moon energy, eclipse energy, whatever you want to call it. don't get too crazy about that stuff, but I do let it make sense. I do let it make sense to me. So on Monday, I definitely felt kind of a release of the energy, but I realized as I was laying in bed on Monday, I didn't have a lot of momentum to go against, but how simple, how magical, and how easy it is to reach higher when you catch it in the beginning. When you're fully aware of it in the beginning and you say, oh no, we are not starting our day on that foot. We are not starting this Monday feeling up against the world. When you start out that way, then you have access to gratitude right away. If you're trying to start it from a deep, dark, depressed place, you got to go a little incremental. Like, okay, what could be satisfying to me right now? Not what could bring me ecstatic joy. It's too far. What could be a little relieving right now? What could make me a little bit more satisfied right now? Is it just turning on a nice song? Is it going out and looking at the sky? Is it going for a walk in nature? What could just make me feel a little bit more satisfied? And I will say, if you are depressed, the worst thing that you can do is keep yourself static, is to not move, because if you're not moving, you're not moving energy. And if you're not moving energy, then it will condense, right? Like it will compact the thoughts, the feelings, the tightness in your muscles, the tightness in your body, the not wanting to move because your body doesn't feel good. All of that is jacked up energy. It's all energy that's just blocked and needs some outlet, some way to move. So walking, running, biking, nature especially will help to start to relieve you and release that so that you can at least start to go up the emotional scale a little bit. Maybe you go from depression to frustration, and then maybe you take frustration into a place of, okay, I'm going to let that go. I'm going to let being frustrated go right now so that I can decide what I would like to happen. Anytime you can place yourself in the vibration of what you would like to happen, you're going to win, because then you're turning yourself in the attention, right? You're taking your attention, you're taking your focus higher to what you actually want to happen. And then that's the signal that you send. So if you got this signal to your future or to your day that's really wonky, right? Like it's dread, it's this ever never works out for me. If you've got those mantras playing in your head, that is what's sending the signal. So you've got to change that. You've got to make decisions. You know what? Today's going to be better than it was yesterday. I'm deciding right now. I'm going to do things that make me feel a little bit better today. Amazing and very, very, very powerful. And my heart goes out to you if you are in like a deep depression or you are, having some challenges with your mental health, because I think we have not done so good as a society to teach people how to get out of these things. We're just medicating, and there's so many like unconventional things that we can do that don't require medication, that has side effects that are worse than probably you feel right now. So if that's the case, I love Change Your Brain on Netflix. I just recommended that to a friend today. Love that. Change Your Brain and Fantastic Fungi are amazing shows on Netflix that talk about, the mental health thing and what we've done and what we can do to kind of take our power back in that situation. So complaining, what does it do in your in your internal world? It does definitely has a toll on your health. So anytime you're in a low vibration and you're feeling bad, your internal cellular structure and everything that's going on in your cells, your immune system, all of that is affected because it's downloading these hormones that are not optimal to your health. I saw a thing the other day that Dr. Joe Dispenza did an experiment where they took a bunch of people and they had, for 10 minutes, 3 times a day, they had them go into gratitude. And the magnitude of what this did inside of their body, as far as like lowering blood pressure, shrinking cancer cells. Oh, there goes my light. Oh, that's cute. That's cute. Why did that happen? Was absolutely phenomenal. So look up Joe Dispenza. He's doing amazing things. There we go. Gratitude. If gratitude can improve your immune system, then why wouldn't you do it? We're all about like wanting to stay healthy, and yet, we're taking vitamins and we're eating good things and hopefully we're exercising. But if your internal game isn't straight, if you haven't healed, if you haven't paid attention to how you feel, if you're just pushing anger down, if you're pushing, all these emotions down, then that internal landscape is going to get really, really wonky. Your cells are going to go crazy. And that's why you're experiencing disease. I mean, think about the word disease, dis-ease. You have dis-ease in your body because of something in your external world that you feel you're in resistance to or fighting against or powerless against. So once you get on this train of complaining, then you're going to attract the people that love to complain. So here we go. If you are surrounded by people that complain or surrounded by negative people, this would be my advice to you, because many of you or me or people in my life, you can't just limit yourself. I know people that try to do this. You can't just limit yourself to the conversations that are the highest quality because of people. There's people all around you that have different views, that have different perceptions, that have different ways of navigating life. And if you try to just talk to people in a high vibration, you're probably not going to talk to a lot of people. And if that's what you want to do, that's fine. But it doesn't really help you expand and grow. What really helps you expand and grow is learning how to navigate these relationships and then paying attention when you feel triggered so that you can do some healing work. So you can ask the questions, where is my stuff in this? What do I need to work on? What do I need to get better about? What do I need to see within myself? Like, what did that argument or that really strong emotion in me, what was that trying to tell me about the way I feel about myself or the way I feel about my life? Really, really important stuff. If you're in a situation where you have to go to a job every day and everyone there is negative, take this into consideration. People are vibrating on the same level as you if they are in your experience. So if they're in your field, they're vibrating at the same frequency. So somewhere, somehow, some way, and maybe you've outgrown this, you had that negative tendency or that miserable tendency to be a complainer. Okay? Or you're just like, you're looking at things from a negative outlook. So in order to clean that up and to vibrate with people at a different level, you cannot think about how negative they are. If you think about how negative people are and how you can't stand them, that will be your vibrational signal that you send to them, and that will be your experience every time. If you commiserate with them, right? Misery loves company. If you complain with them about the problem, then you're both in the problem, and that's a really strong conduction towards the problem. If you're gossiping against other people in the office, that's a very negative, it may feel fun. I know. I used to gossip quite a bit. It's really fun. It may feel fun, but the thing is, you're lowering your vibration when you do that because you're in a place where you're judging someone, where you're casting shame, where you're, trying to make people feel bad, talking behind their back. People feel energy. So even if you think you're talking behind their back, they're still getting the signal. They can still feel it. So, and if you're saying things behind their back that you would never say in front of their front, they're most likely going to find out about it. That's kind of how that works. It's karma. So keep in mind, your energy is in your field. So the energy that you're conducting from is creating that field of creation all around you. So as you gossip or make fun of people or talk negative about people or whatever, you are bringing that energy into your life, and then you're going to experience it. People are going to talk behind your back, and then you're going to have issues with that as well. So I would highly suggest that you try not to do that. That instead, if you were to think about the good things, the good qualities that people have, and give them the benefit of the doubt and try to be understanding and compassionate, that's a much better energy for you, especially in your workplace. So mindset, when you're coming into work, if you have had that experience where you're around a bunch of people who are negative or complaining, or maybe your boss is like that, I had a funny conversation the other day about past bosses and how, many of our children growing up, like they're right now, I would say like in the 20s, it's amazing because they think that they need to be respected. And of course you need to be respected. But it's funny because as we were growing up, we had so many different bosses that were really, really mean to us, like really mean to us. I had one woman, one of my first jobs when I was like 15, I worked in a bank, and this was so like, I worked in like a bank processing center. It was one of my favorite jobs where we would do the encoding on the checks. And this woman, like once a week, our manager would come in screaming at us, like literally screaming at us, like we were like her toddlers. Like it was crazy. And none of us would say anything. We would all just sit there in fear, and no one stood up to her. And it was wrong. But what it showed me was that, I had to work on my self-confidence. I had to work on, expecting respect from people in a way that allowed things to be different. So if you have that going on in your job, there is something within you that is allowing that. There's a boundary loss in there that's allowing that. And until you stand up and say, I'm not going to be talked to that way, or decide for yourself that, you deserve better than this, and maybe you find another job, then that's going to keep happening. Also, respect. So energy begets energy. Write that down. Like seriously, I think this all the time, and I thought about it this weekend. Energy begets energy. So as you get up and move, it was funny. My husband and I went for a walk one night. Every once in a while, he'll want to go for a walk at night. Walking at night is so good for you. Like it's crazy what it does for your blood sugar if you just go for like a 10-minute walk. And we have a beautiful neighborhood, and the weather's been great. If you can just go out for a quick little walk. I came home, I cleaned the kitchen, I made his lunch, I did all these things. I folded laundry, I did all these things that I would normally just have no energy for at the end of the day, because energy begets energy. So if you're depressed, find a way to move some energy, and then that will help that depression to start to lift. So energy begets energy, but also what you put out is what you get back. So if you're noticing a lot of people are disrespecting you, are you disrespecting people? Always bring it back to you. If you always bring it back to you, and that doesn't mean that you should take everything personally. It means that you look at everything and you say, what can I get from this? What can I grow from this? How can I expand from this so that I can move into a higher vibrational place within myself, instead of the blame game or being a victim or that's their problem. A lot of times, you know what? If you don't feel anything from somebody, if you're not feeling triggered, then it is about them. Then it doesn't have anything to do with you, and you can literally let it go, and it will go away because it's not about you. Because vibrationally, if you're up here and somebody's down here, you won't connect the same. You won't connect. They won't have access to you because you're not giving them permission. You're not in the vibrational vicinity to say, hey, I'm over here. Let's go down this miserable loop together. You're like, I'm up here. I see you. I hear you, but it's not affecting me. It's not affecting me because I know who I am, and vibrationally and spiritually, I'm in a good place. So law of attraction, yes, is what's coming to you, but it's bigger in the respect of how you respond to it. So you could try some little experiments. I love experiments because they really show me how energy works, and they show me how it works with other people so effectively. So if you were to wake up tomorrow and you were to write down all of the positive aspects of your life first, and then each person that's in your life that you're dealing with on a daily basis, if you were to write down every positive aspect about them, so everything you love about them, and it can be small. It can be, I love the way they smell, or I love the way they smile, or I love when they laugh. Or if you were to do that for just a week, like a week, just wake up and do that for a week, you would find yourself on another trajectory. You would find yourself in a different vibrational place with people. You would stop dreading relationships. You would stop dreading conversations. You would start giving out. You would start beaming a vibration of love. And that vibration of love, there is acceptance in that. There is non-resistance in that. There is the better it gets in that. And so you end up setting yourself up for a really wonderful experience wherever you go. Wherever you go. I love using the DMV as an example, and I've done this so many times, but it's like so profound to me because I've done it so many times. So everyone has a story about the DMV, right? Like Department of Motor Vehicles, like the people that work there are cranky. We always have to go back because we don't have the right paperwork. We always have to wait all day, hours and hours and hours. It's a miserable experience. Well, I started to shift that when I moved to California, because there's this great DMV and it's near the beach. So you can like feel the ocean air, like all of the things I was set up for success in that. And I would go there in a really high vibration, just being grateful for life, and had some really awesome people that worked there that I connected with, that I laughed with, that we had a good time with. So I proved it in one of the places that is known in society to be one of the worst places you have to go. So if you're doing that in any way, shape, or form, and you are projecting or dreading or putting energy into that, it's time to decide to stop doing that. Funny example that I just want to share of someone I know who has issues like getting government assistance. They want government assistance. They need it for whatever reason. And their belief is that it never comes through, that it's hard to get. And so the signal that's being sent doesn't allow something to happen. So anytime you're in your life experience and you've been thinking about something for a long time and how it won't work and how it doesn't work, and you've got all the reasons why things are not working. If you can shift that and decide, this time it's going to work. This time I'm not going to stop. I'm not going to quit. I'm not going to lay down until I get some answers, until I find a way through this. That determination and decision is a way better signal than what you have been previously sending. So pay attention to that. What is the signal you're sending? The other thing I love, and this comes from Abraham Hicks, is the idea of being under the influence. So whenever we think of under the influence, we think of like drinking or drugs, or right, like being under the influence of some sort of substance. But if you could think of being under the influence of emotion or under the influence of perspective, right? So are you under the influence of a negative perspective, or are you under the influence of trying to find the good in situations? Are you under the influence of your own limited perspective, or are you under the influence of how the universe, God, or source feels about things, right? Are you under the influence of your own low vibrational loops and patterns and doubts and beating yourself up in that self-critical, right, shitty committee? Are you under that influence? Are you reaching higher? Are you reaching into those higher states of consciousness where you can have access to gratitude? You can have access to celebration and feeling good about yourself and remembering the last 100 things that you manifested, right? And your power. So it's all up to you if you're dreading it. If you have things coming up, this just popped up, like if you have things coming up like a lawsuit or a situation where you feel kind of powerless in it, like maybe you're going through a divorce, or you've got some kid, your kids, you're sharing kids, you've got some custody issues. All of those things can be changed by how you conduct. And I have done this with so many people. The divorce thing, I think the divorce thing and like the kid custody thing is probably one of the greatest ways that we find power, because it's such a situation that could draw so much powerlessness from us, especially when it comes to like kids, like spending time with your kids or sharing your kids. with someone who you may have not had the best relationship with, or you may not even feel like your kids are really going to have a best relationship with them, shifting that is so important. So seeing what you want to happen, helping yourself to heal so that your emotional field isn't so raw, isn't so like triggered. Because I can tell you way back in the beginning of the Goldyn Hour. So if you look up the Goldyn Hour episodes, I did an episode with a divorce attorney. She's actually my neighbor, Becky Prather. And we talked about the way that people lose their mind in court, and they do themselves huge disservices because they can't get their emotional field under control because they feel so powerless. So the greatest way that you can navigate situations like that, no matter what it is, what the lawsuit is about, or what kind of, mediation that you need to do within your life experience, within relationships, what is the signal you're sending to it? What do you want to get out of it? And how do you want it to turn out? Instead of being pushed and pulled and kind of ripped apart inside. I see so many women go through this, and it's like, it's so necessary for their expansion and growth, but it's so much could be easier. The navigation process could be so much easier if they weren't coming from that severely wounded place, which a lot of times that's why divorce is happening, because we're wounded, we're triggered, we're up against each other, the whole thing. So we want to get out of the tendency to be in the problem. That's what complaining is. It's being solidly connected to the problem. So we can't find the solution because the problem's down here. The solution is up here. And if you are entertaining a lot of people that complain, I've actually thought about this recently, like with people who are close to me in my life that I just allow to kind of complain. If you're around a lot of people that are complaining and you are allowing it, that's having an influence on your vibration. It really does. So instead, I would just be like, we're not doing the complaining thing. How can you shift this? How can you reach higher? What can you do to see out of this? Because if you're only seeing from that limited perspective, then you're only going to get that limited perspective experience. You're not going to get the miracles and the really cool magic and the things that happen when we shift into gratitude, or when we see the good in life, or we start to go, oh, wow, you know what? I'm not going to take my health for granted. I'm going to get up every day. I'm going to move my body because I know that moving my body is optimal to my cell, rejuvenation, my cell turnover. Moving the energy out of my body is good for my emotions, for my hormones, for all of it. If you could ask yourself when you get really down what you're doing, you will see that what you're doing is solidifying the way you feel. You can always get out of it by making another decision and by pushing yourself a little bit. I know you don't feel like it. Believe me, I know. I didn't feel like it. And I know what I can do to be better off. And sometimes I do it and sometimes I don't. But for the most part, I do it because I'm not going to waste time here. Why are we wasting time here being stuck in patterns that are not serving us? Why? Because a lot of times you don't know better. And a lot of times I think we get very apathetic where we're just like, oh, I don't even care. But you do care because what you're experiencing is so less than the potential that you have to experience that it's really important to care about yourself. It really is. It's more important to care about yourself than others, because if you're constantly caring about others and you're just emptying yourself out all the time, eventually you're going to burn out or feel resentment, or it's really not the path to the greatest feeling being by serving others all the time and feeling drained and all of that. If you get a helper's high and you feel great and you're helping people and it feels amazing and you feel healthy and vital doing that, yes, that's a match. But if you're doing it because you're trying to get love, or you're feeling lost, or you're feeling like you have to, like you're obligated, not good, not good. All right, so complaining is not great. And if you want to get out of the tendency of it, the first thing you have to do is recognize it. Now, being aware of it doesn't really change it, unfortunately. You can be aware of it. You can yell at your kids and still feel like you shouldn't be yelling at them, and you can still yell at them, and It doesn't change anything, right? You could be complaining to a coworker and in this cycle with this coworker and be really aware of it. And actually that will drive you a little crazy. You'll get frustrated because you're like, I don't know why I keep complaining. I don't want to complain. So the first thing is, first thing in the morning, what are you doing? What are you picking up on first thing in the morning? And how often and easy is it for you to pick up on those complaints about noticing what is wrong and talking about it or feeding the thoughts about it? Right? Like this morning I woke up, I washed all my floors yesterday, which probably shouldn't have done when we had plumbers coming over, but I was just like, I gotta wash the floor. I was on the phone and I was like, I'm just gonna wash the floor. So I washed the floor. And then this morning I woke up and there was like this blue smoothie all over the floor. So my first question was, do the people that do this not realize that they spilled something? That's possible. That's very possible. Instead of going into, I can't believe that they leave this there, I went to that. Like, do they really not? So I sprayed it down and I thought about my husband coming down and the first things I was going to say to him. And I never said anything about it. I cleaned it up and I let it go. And because I know that little things like that, right? Those little tiny things that tick us off, right? They just tick, 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 tick. And what they do is they tick on our low vibe. They bring us down incrementally. So every little thing that you let get to you drops your vibration, drops your vibration, drops your vibration. Before you know it, you look around you and you're like, life sucks. And that's why. And that's why. Because you let it just beat on you instead of letting it go. Letting it go, not making it a thing. Why does it have to be a thing? Who cares, right? Who really cares? What difference are you going to make if you yell at somebody about that? Do you think that they're not going to accidentally spill a smoothie another time? No, it's going to happen. So we live in a house. People drop things on the floor. It's the way it is, right? That radical acceptance that causes us not to get into those lower vibrational places where we're like, so annoyed. All right, so we're going to do a little book roulette because I've got a few more minutes and I love doing this. I think I might do a bundle for Christmas. I've got all these 4 books and I just feel like they're so beautiful together. Like it's really good. So my last book that just came out is The Perfect Unfolding for the Expansion of Your Soul. I'm selling these like hotcakes. I'm really excited about getting these out in the world because this is the spiritual part of manifesting and a lot of messages that came through my dreams. And it's just a beautiful, cohesive book. This is on parenting. If you need some help on parenting, Quantum Speak for Parents is fantastic, energetic. And I have a little chapter in there about elderly parents. Journal, 100 pages of information. This is a daily guide. So it will help you to clean up things on the daily. If you're looking to do that, it's really good. And then it has a whole bunch of journaling and writing prompts in it. This is hardcover and it's gorgeous. I love this book. And then my first one that came out, this is also available on Amazon. Audible, you can get on Audible. Mindful Manifestation Secrets is the science of creating super simple read, fast read, but really impactful. And it also has podcast episodes in here that align with the chapters. In fact, I'm going to pull from this book today. Let's see what we got. So if you have these books and you've read them already, this is a great way to do a little roulette with any like spiritual books or personal help books that you have, to do a little Russian roulette and just be like, all right, I would like to be guided to a message. I always do this. I open to pictures on this book. I don't know what that's about. Okay. Oh. And they always work, right? They always work. Aligning yourself vibrationally. This doesn't mean we sit around and wait. Waiting for something to happen is actually conducting the energy of waiting and will only slow down the energy. This is the time to relax into the allowing energy and look for the signs and clues to act. You know, that's a really good indication too when you've got things going on that you don't want to happen, right? That you want to complain about. Instead of complaining, if you're to let go, decide what you want, let go, and then put yourself in the allowing receiving mode, which just means you don't really do a whole lot, but you're kind of in expectation that things are going to work out, and you're watching. Your receiving mode is watching. You're watching the energy, and you're watching and feeling for inspiration. It is time to be aware of what is going on in your experience and work on releasing any impatient thoughts or feelings that make you feel like it's not happening fast enough. Start visualizing and aligning yourself with the energetic pre-quantum wave conduction. So pre-quantum wave conduction is what happens before physical manifestation takes place. So it's the energy. It's the energy that you're feeling, that you're putting out into the world, that will attract something to you. It's the becoming. Who would I be? How would I feel if I was living a truly abundant life? Would I be struggling? Would I be upset? Would I be fighting against? No, I would be in flow, because money's an energy. So I would be in flow of the energy going out and coming back in. Start doing things that help create the new identity around the person who is living your desired existence right now. Everything you want has the ability to manifest because of your desire for it. Nothing happens until we form the thought patterns and desires to begin activating the energy of existence. The fact that you have the vision and desire means you have what it takes to manifest it. Realize that the journey to the manifestation is actually more important than the actual manifestation, and you are halfway there. Understand that forming your energy around what you want is a necessary step in allowing it into your experience. The feeling is the manifestation. Pretty good stuff. Yeah. I love when those messages align, because they're so impactful when they do that. And so far we've got kind of 100% guarantee on opening these books and having them tell us something that we really need to hear. So the feeling is the manifestation. If you are feeling complainy, if you're feeling down, or if you're feeling frustrated, if you're upset with everybody and everything around you, you are not in alignment with what you actually want, what would bring you joy, what would make you feel passion, what would get you excited. You're not in the alignment of that. You're down here, that's up here. So how do we bring it closer? Well, we have a lot of things in our toolbox to grab from. Gratitude, meditation, deep breathing, letting things go, deciding. Decision is probably one of the biggest things that draws from the energy of determination. I've decided that's what I'm going to do, because there's no wishy-washy energy. So often people are not clear enough to make that decision for themselves. And that's why they don't ever experience like big physical manifestations, because we're not aligned properly with the energy. Our beliefs are not in alignment with the energy. We're constantly going back and forth. So decision. I'm deciding today's going to be better than yesterday. I'm deciding I'm going to feel better, and I'm going to do whatever it takes to feel better. I'm going to take baths. I'm going to take nature walks. I'm going to meditate. I'm going to exercise. I'm going to do I'm going to limit my conversations with that person. I'm going to drive myself forward in a way that allows me to get the most out of life, because I have the power to do that. Stop giving your power away to labels and to an idea. It's just an idea, right? Or the I am, like I am depressed, or I am upset, or I am down. All of those, you're just over and over again, you're activating that energy. I am feeling better. I am working on it. I am progressing. Whatever you can do to start activating in the direction of what you want to experience is so powerful. It really is. You have the ability to take your power back at any moment. And I know sometimes it can feel right to be a victim. It can feel right to be in blame. It can feel, you got that. It almost makes you feel powerful in some ways, but that is not power. That is not exercising your power. Exercising your power means you decide how things are going to go, and then you move in the direction of them. And you all have the potential to do it. Every single one of us has the potential to live so much more power than we are. And that's why shows like this get me really excited, because I think people look at their lives and they're like, I don't know where to start. I don't know how to fix this. I feel like everything is wrong and I don't know where to go. And it's so much more simple than we are making it out to be, that if we could just take these incremental steps and really pay attention to how we wake up in the morning and then how we're conducting afterwards towards every single thing. You are sending a signal to every single thing. Is that signal what you want to be getting back? Because you're the big conductor. You're the big conductor. And then, of course, you have universal alignment, partnership, God, source, whatever you like to call it, because there is that spiritual component of faith and trust and not being alone on this journey, calling in your non-physical team or your angels. If you've got somebody who's really challenging, it's like, help me to see the best in them. You can ask for that. It's not begging for anything. It's actually aligning yourself with something. So good, you guys. This is such a good life. And when you really finally start to recognize that and see it for what it really is, you get to enjoy it. Energy begets energy, and the better it gets, the better it gets. And I'm excited for you to experience that in ways that I have, and ways that I continue, and ways that I am still figuring out. All right. I love y'all. Peace out.